Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Flying DCS World with OverKill F-18C Hornet. And today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to be focusing on ground moving targets, but we're also going to be taking a look at the air-to-ground radar and using the ground moving target mode, as well as the TGP ground moving target tracking, and then using the AGM-65 to employ against said targets. There's a couple different caveats and a couple things that you want to be concerned with when using the TGP to track the moving target, and the same thing with using the air-to-ground radar to track your moving target. Okay, so let's get into it and we'll talk about what some of those differences are. All right, so the first scenario here that I want to talk about is in the event that you are looking for a group of moving targets, you don't care which one you hit. You're out to blow them all up, right? You need to take everybody out, or get their attention, get them off a road, whatever it may be. I'm going to show you a real easy way to do that. Okay, and nothing's easier than doing this with the AGM-65 F, the Foxtrot, okay, the TV guided Maverick. Okay. This is really a sweet system. Sorry, I hit my record button instead of the pause button. We're going to come out of pause here. I'm going to go into air-to-ground mode. First thing we want to do is hit OSB 5 and go from the map mode over to ground moving target. And by the way, if you want a little bit of both, you can hit the interleave button if you want to get that ground correlation. I prefer to leave that off. It makes it easier to see. We're going to extend out to about 40 miles so we can see our ground moving targets. Now, let's talk about this for a second. Make sure you understand each one of these lines is not necessarily one vehicle. Okay, I can tell you right now for a fact that all of these are groups of vehicles and different numbers in those groups. Okay, I think one has 2, one has 4, and one has 6, if I remember correctly. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a real quick and dirty way. Actually, it's not really a dirty way. It's a pretty quick way to acquire the target to the TGP and very quickly be able to ascertain what your group is. All right. So unpausing for a second, I'm going to bring up our FLIR on the left DDI. And the only reason why is because I don't have my head tracker working. My track IR is being dumb. So I'm going to go to a narrow field of view. Actually, we'll just leave it there for a second. Disregard that. Let's hit sensor select right. We're going to make our right DDI our sensor of interest. I'm going to put my TDC over one of these groups here. I'm going to hit sensor select right again, and it should lock it up. Okay, automatically focuses directly on those targets. Notice the TGP has now moved, and if we make our TGP our sensor of interest with sensor select left and zoom in, and let's hit our field of view button, there's what we have locked up. Now this is our group of 2. This is not our target group. These are actually friendlies. Okay, so this is where knowing what's in your AO is going to be kind of critical for this too. Now, we can go sensor select right again to return to the air-to-ground radar. I'm going to hit sensor select right one more time to unlock it or undesignate. Pick one of these other groups and rinse and repeat. And so this actually does look like my target group. Now, as I said, if you are not concerned about what vehicle you're going to destroy, you need to employ against all of them, this is where this becomes super easy. Okay, from here, we're just going to change over to our stores page, bring up our Maverick again to lock it up or to bring up the display page. Okay, and from here, just uncage your Maverick. So sensor select right to make it our sensor of interest. And the Maverick not only moves over to the target, but as you can see, is tracking it. Okay, and then from here, you would just wait for your Maverick to no longer be crossed out. As you can see, it is up here. Once it says Mav F without the X in it, you're clear to shoot. All right, now we're not going to employ on this guy just yet. He's getting behind the buildings, so that would make it a little bit difficult. But I can promise you, as long as you have a clear shot, once your Mav F line is clear, like let's see what it does. It'll probably do it right here. It's still got a lot. Well, we're still inside 10 miles. Or outside 10 miles. There it is. So by doing this, you can almost get maximum range with the TV guided Maverick. I mean, at 9.8 miles, it gave us a clear shot. If we fire the Maverick on it, as long as it gets past those buildings, it'll strike our target. All right, but I'm not going to do that against these guys just yet, because I want to show you guys a less convenient way of tracking these guys. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unpause and then put us into active pause so we start getting forward momentum. And now I'm going to show you guys the next step. All right, so we've acquired our group here, but here's where this becomes a little trickier. Let me zoom us in a bit. Our TGP is now our sensor of interest, and if I want to move it, okay, you're going to see that now it's no longer tracking. Okay, and what we can find happening here is, in order to get us into the TGP to track, we need to move from normal operation to point track mode. And so what you want to do is put your TGP just in front of the vehicle that you want to track. And in our case, we're going to go sensor select left. There's area track, and sensor select left again to go into point track. Now notice we can't move anything. The TGP is stuck in its position, and it's not tracking. Okay, and this has to do with, oh, and by the way, notice when I went back into normal operation, because the air-to-ground radar is still tracking these targets, the TGP will resume that location. Okay, so that makes it really handy as far as reacquiring like this. Now, to talk more about using just the TGP and its point track mode to track a target, let's go back into point track. You can see it's not happening very well. So let's put it into the FLIR mode. See if that doesn't make a bit of a difference. Okay, so again, I'm going to rinse and repeat here. So there's sensor select left, sensor select left again. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to what's happening here. I'm going to do this one more time. Watch the TDC when we move into point track. So I'm moving off. Area track. There's point track. Notice what the TDC is doing. It's jumping down to these rails. How the TGP sees its target in the FLIR mode, remember FLIR mode is all based on contrast, okay? That hot, in the FLIR mode, we're seeing infrared. We're seeing hot versus cold surfaces. The darker the image, we're in white hot, so the darker the image, the colder it is. The whiter the image or brighter the image, the hotter it is. Look at the distinction or the contrast between these rails here and the vehicle. Okay, there isn't a whole lot of color differentiation. Jeez, Lord. So what happened was the truck came in front of the TDC. The TDC did detect movement, but couldn't ascertain the difference between the rail and the vehicle, so it locked onto the rail. So for a split second, it did track the movement of the vehicle, but then jumped itself down to the rail because it thought they were one and the same. So as far as the TGP is concerned, it is locked on our target. All right. Now, something you can do to try to alleviate this is we can try switching to black hot. And let's go back into normal operation here. And this is where you may have to mess with your gain settings to sort of make it easier for you to see. So let's do that. There we go. That's a little bit better. And let's try... No, let's go gain up. There we go. That's a bit better. And let's see if it works a little bit better in... So there's one and point track. Nope. And here's why. Because white hot and black hot is just changing the way that we see it to try to make it easier for us to ascertain what we're looking at. Okay, the TGP still sees it the same way. Okay, even when we switch the contrast and then changing these settings here, that's for our benefit. That is changing the visual display. It's not changing the way the TGP is seeing the target. It's just changing the way we see it up on the screen. So this is one of the things that you may run into when trying to acquire a moving ground target using just the TGP. And this is where the air-to-ground radar comes in very, very handy, assuming that you don't, again, have to worry about hitting a specific vehicle. In these particular situations, what I do recommend, there's a couple different ways we can try to alleviate this. And I'm going to show you guys one of them and then just tell you guys about another. So the first one is a tell. The first one is, this is where if you have it on board, and this is where it is good to have them on board, is the AGM-65E, the laser guided Maverick. Okay, the laser guided Maverick, now it's going to require more work on you as the pilot because you have to manually, switch your target mode and keep that TDC on your target, but it gives you a little bit better coordination and a little bit better ability to navigate onto your targets, right? You're firing the laser and you just have to manually move your TDC and keep it on that target. So that's one way to alleviate that particular situation if you run into this. The other way that I found sometimes helps, and we're going to go and do this in just a second, is to fly the same direction as the road. Okay, and that's what we're going to try right now. I'm going to bring us around out to the left and fly back in from behind the vehicles following the road's path. So I'll catch back up with you guys as soon as I get to that point. All right, so we're in very close, but that's all right. So what I'm going to do now is move our TGP up the road, try to reacquire our group here. And so again, if we had that specific vehicle, and a lot of times this will work a lot better. So there's area track, here's point track, and there you go. Because it had, and the reason why this works is because it has more contrast between the two, okay? It's not looking through all the heat of the road coming up from that horizontal view. Instead, now we're looking directly on top of it, and you can see there's much more contrast than what we saw in the previous attempt. Okay, in the previous attempt, there were a lot of colors like these rails right here that were really blending in with the vehicle. Okay, but now that we've acquired it like this, okay, we are able to lock it up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit my TDC depress to lock the target. Okay, then we can come back over here and use our stores page and bring up our Maverick, uncage it, and unfortunately from here you still have to track it manually. And there it is, and rifle. All right, sorry about missing the explosion there, guys. I hit my record button again. I really got to stop doing that. I got to move it. But anyway, so let's talk about when I would use what. If you do not care which particular vehicle you hit, the air-to-ground mode radar, or the air-to-ground radar, using it to designate your target with the AGM-65 F is your best bet. Because it's so quick, as you guys saw, you can very quickly lock up the target. The Maverick tracks the target as you move along without any issue whatsoever. Now, so it makes it, you can just pop them off like crazy until the vehicle stops. That's the other important to remember. Once the vehicle stops, the air-to-ground mode that we were using, this mode here, will no longer function because it will no longer be able to see them. Okay, like this group right here, if they were to suddenly stop, we would lose them. Okay, so makes it really handy to lock those kind of vehicles up. If you have to use the previous method that we just talked about and use the TGP to track it, I recommend using the AGM-65E, the laser guided, because the TGP, as you saw, will remain locked up on that target. And so it's just a matter at that point of firing the laser and getting the Maverick to acquire, letting it loose, and the TGP is going to continue to track. You don't have to worry about undesignating. Because what I had to do with the TGP is once I designated the target, in order to be able to slew the Maverick, I had to undesignate the target from the TGP. Okay? So the TGP lost visual tracking. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. I thought that was a really neat system once I acquired that, and started messing around with it a little bit. I thought it was a lot of fun to use. and figured that I would share that with you guys. So as always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know if there's any other questions or concerns. If there's anything that you guys would like to add to it, don't ask me where this lagging is suddenly coming from. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful weekend, folks.